Hi everybody, welcome to Mama's Stitches. I am so very excited to bring to you guys one of my very own crochet patterns. It is for this adorable little gag gift. As my kids call it, a pickle deer. But as adults would know it, a little dildo. Forgive the way that it looks. It is my very first prototype. Since then, I've made about 6 or 7 and have worked on perfecting this pattern. My husband saw it on a meme on Facebook and asked me if I could make it into one of my plushies. I searched all online, on Etsy, on YouTube, on Pinterest, and I could not find a pattern for the life of me for a crocheted pickle deer. So after some hard work and some careful planning, I ended up making one of my own, and she's a little white-tailed deer. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make that today. What you're gonna need is, or at least what I use for it, is Red Heart Super Saver in like a pickly green. It doesn't have to be this bright. It can be darker, not duller. But it is a medium weight 4. You're gonna need green. You're gonna need brown, and you're gonna need just a little bit of white and black. White is literally just going to be used for the tail, so very little bit, and the black is used for the hooves and embroidering the nose. So don't need a whole lot of that either. Doesn't really take up a whole lot of yarn anyway. When the stuffy is done, it measured out about 8 inches long from the tip of her nose to her butt, and about 8 inches tall. So standing up, she no longer stands up. Like I said, she was my very first one. I made a lot of improvements on her since then. My husband got a new one. A bunch of his co-workers ordered some from me. So she is my very first. So she's gonna go up on my wall of creations, which I will probably end up showing you guys here soon. So let's go ahead. So for the pattern, you're gonna need a number 5mm or H crochet hook for the pickle part of the body, and then a 3.75mm crochet hook for the legs, head, and tail. You're also probably going to want a stitch marker because we are going to be working in the round and it's a continuous round. You're going to want some safety eyes. I do believe these are 8mm. Yeah, 8mm safety eyes, a yarn needle, and some scissors. It's a pretty beginner friendly pattern. You're only really going to need to know single crochet, increases, decreases, back loop only, and a puff stitch. I will show you how to do a puff stitch. I'm not sure if it's referred to as a puff stitch or a bobble stitch. So if I end up saying puff stitch throughout it or switch it to bobble stitch, it's the same stitch, at least in my mind, which is basically just 4 half finished double crochet stitches into one stitch. So let's go ahead and grab our green yarn, and we are gonna start out making the pickle body of our pickled deer. And so round 1, you're gonna want to go ahead and make a magic ring. If you don't know how to do the magic ring and can't quite get it on this tutorial, the chain 2 method and stitching back into the very first chain should work just fine. So you're going to go ahead and grab a little tail of yarn between your thumb and your middle finger, wrap it around your middle and pointer finger, bring your working yarn around, cross it over into an X, and I use my ring finger to hold it. Then go ahead and take your hook, go under that first strand, and grab that second strand and bring it under. Bring it under, and we're going to kind of twist it so it stays, so you can take your finger out, and then you're going to go ahead and grab it and just chain 1 to secure it. So round 1, we're going to do 6 single crochets into our magic ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and tighten it up a little bit, 5, and 6. And then go ahead and pull on that tail and tighten up that ring. Get your stitch marker ready, because we're going to go ahead and move on to round 2, which is where you're going to put an increase stitch in each and every one of the 6 stitches from round 1. And so if you don't know what an increase is, it is simple. Since we are working with single crochets in this pattern, you're going to go ahead and put 2 single crochets in the very first stitch. My yarn doesn't want to work with me. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get into that very first stitch. And it's whatever you're comfortable doing. Some people mark the last stitch of a round, some people mark the first stitch of the round. I am one of those people that mark the first stitch of the round. So go ahead As long as you know when a round starts and when it ends, it doesn't really matter. So go ahead and put a second single crochet back into that very first stitch of the previous round. Another thing that you can do, and that I do, just so I don't have to worry about them poking out later or sewing them in later, is I wrap my tail around my hook and do my single crochets around that tail so it hides it while I go around the circle. So we did increase and another increase, and we're just going to go ahead and we are going to increase all the way around the circle. So 2 single crochets in each of the stitches of the previous round, and by the end of round 2 you should have a total of 12 single crochets. And I am so sorry, you can probably hear my kiddos in the background. They are getting ready for bed, and my dog walking around. There's that little click clack, click clack. Okay, so I just finished round 2. So round 3 is going to be 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase. So in the very first stitch, we're just going to put 1 single crochet. Put your stitch marker back. And then in the second stitch of the previous round, we're going to put 2 single crochets. 1, 2. And then in the third stitch, just 1 single crochet. And in the fourth, 2 single crochets to increase it. And that's going to be our repeat for round 3. At the end of round 3, you should have 18 single crochets. So go ahead and finish off the circle, and I will meet you back at the very beginning. So we are here at the last 2 stitches of round 3, and you should land with 1 single crochet and the very last stitch being an increase. So at the end of round 3, you should have 18 single crochets all the way around. Round 4, we're gonna do 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet each, 1, 2, and then an increase. So let's do the first couple together. 1 single crochet. Put your stitch marker back. And then in the next stitch, 1 single crochet. And then in the next stitch, an increase. 1, 2. And next 2 stitches, just 1 single crochet in each, 2, and then in the third, a increase, 1, 2, and that is going to be our repeat for round 4. At the end of round 4, you should have 24 stitches. So go ahead and keep repeating that pattern around for round 4, and I will meet back with you at the end of round 4. Okay, so I just finished round 4 and I ended with a increase stitch, which gave me 24 single crochets around my little circle. Round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase. So 1, oops, whoa, where'd my string go? 2, 3, and an increase. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. My table keeps hitting my wall. I hope you guys don't hear that. Scooch it away just a tad bit, just in case. There. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And I'm just going to finish off this round with you. It is our last round of increases, and we should be ending the round with 30 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and an increase. 1, 2, oh, my 2 went away. 2, 3, and an increase. So, what we're going to do now, we are all done increasing. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to work in the rounds without any increases or decreases. but this is where we're going to introduce the puff stitch or bobble stitch. And we are going to end up working round 6 through 23 like this, just a continuous round to make it oblong. About the bobble stitches, there's no real order or anything to put them in. That is going to be completely up to your creativity and mine. For the one I'm making, you can have just a couple little bumps for your pickle, or you can have a lot of bumps on your pickle. I did quite a few on mine because when I think pickle, I think they are quite bumpy. So I did that on mine. You could even in your rows of increases and decreases, depending upon your skill level, you could even do bobble stitches in them. I didn't just start off with for my very first one because I was literally making this up in my head as I went along. So I wasn't too confident on how it was going to turn out, but I did end up doing them in several of the ones that I sold back in December, and they actually turned out really, really good. Those are the ones that are pictured in the thumbnail at the beginning of the video. You should be able to see a couple bumps on the front. If you feel like you can do that, go for it. But for this tutorial's purpose, I'm just going to leave the front and the back plain, and we're only going to work on the bobble stitches on the sides. So round 6, we're going to start off with however many single crochets you're wanting to do. I think I will start my first bobble stitch here in the middle. Next stitch seems like a good starting point. So let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, hopefully, because my little tripod is busted, so I have it kind of, and I just got it too. It was a real bummer. Anyways, I have my tripod kind of perched in between the wall and the bookcase to film this for you guys, because I had been saying for like a month on YouTube that I was gonna come out with this tutorial for you. Anyways, so I can't really see. I can see a little bit of my screen, so hopefully that's close enough for you guys. So to do a puff stitch, we're going to yarn over. We're going to go into our next stitch, yarn over, pull through. You're going to have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull through 2. Just the first 2. You're going to yarn over. You're going to go back into the stitch that you just worked into, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop. You're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to go through the first 2. Now you have 4, which means you actually have 3 unfinished half double crochets. We want 4. So you're gonna go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over. Now you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook and 4 unfinished half double, not half double, well, yeah. No. Double crochets. Sorry. You have 4 unfinished double crochets. You're going to go ahead and you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through all 5 of those loops. I kind of stick my finger in the back of that puff stitch. See where there's a little indent? I stick my finger in the back and that way it stays puffed out, because this stitch right next to it is going to be sometimes hard to find. But that's the stitch that we're going to need to go into to keep our count of 30. And you're going to secure that puff stitch down with a single crochet. And then you're going to just keep on trucking with as many single crochets around as you see fit. And then whenever you feel like it, you're going to do a puff stitch. Yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of the loops on your hook, yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through the same stitch, pull up a loop, go through the first 2 stitches. You only have 4, we need 1 more, so we're going to go back in, pull up that loop, yarn over and go through the next 2 stitches, loops, sorry, not stitches. You now have 5 loops on your hook. Go ahead and yarn over, pull through all 5. Go ahead and go to the next stitch. And do a single crochet. Even if your puff stitch does end up going to the back of your work, it's really easy to fix. You just stick your finger back there and puff it back out that way. So no big deal if it doesn't, if it wants to run away and hide, you can bring it back. And so that is what we're going to be doing for round 6 through 23. We're currently on round 6, and then I will meet back up with you at the end of round 23. I'm going to go ahead and do one more with you, just so we can feel confident that I'm leaving you understanding how to do the puff stitch or the bobble stitch, whatever it's called. Two, 4, 5. Go ahead and go through all 5. And then the very next stitch, do a single crochet. And then I do recommend that maybe I won't part with you just yet, because I do want to show you something. So let's go ahead and do a few more. And do another puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2, 4, 5. Pull through all of them. Oops, split my yarn. And then our last one for round 6. So I'm going to start off round 7. Don't forget to put your stitch marker back. And I know round 6 through 23 is a lot of rounds. So if you have a notepad on your phone, you can just write down working on round blank and then fill it in every time that you work a new round. That way you can keep track. That's what I do. So we have our bobble stitches in round 6. So in round 7, what you're going to want to do is you can put bobble stitches in between each of the bobble stitches that you made from the previous round. But you want to make sure that you're just single crocheting directly next to the puff stitches, because if you try and do like a puff stitch on top of a puff stitch, it's gonna get kind of gappy. So I do recommend at least one round of single crochets and directly around the puff stitches from the previous round that you did. So I'm going to go ahead and do another puff stitch. 2, 4, I need one more. And that's probably as close as I would personally want to get to it. And also, your bobble or puff stitch does count as one of your 30 single crochets from the previous round. So you are going to want to make sure that you put a single crochet at the top. It is where you yarn through, and there's still just a little V at the top of that puff stitch. Go ahead and put your single crochet, And make sure that you also get that securing single crochet that we do right after. So like if we did do a puff stitch really close to a previous puff stitch without having a single crochet barrier between them, like say you do it like right after, right? We're gonna do it in that. That's already a pretty big gap for a plushie. It doesn't really show through too terribly bad in your work. And mine's also been stretched out because my kids thought that it was the cutest, funniest darn thing. I mean, they didn't understand it. They just thought, Mom made a pickle deer. That's funny. My kids are 6, 7, and 10. And then I have a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old. Yeah, so my younger 3 just thought it was hilarious. Anyways, if you end up doing a puff stitch right next to a previous puff stitch, we're just going to end up stretching that already loose or gappy stitch even more. And we don't want that. And we don't want our plushies to have gaps. So I don't recommend it. I mean, it's not too bad, but still, I really wouldn't recommend it. So what you're going to want to do is single crochet. Now mine's going to be kind of gappy, but that's okay. Because I would rather help you learn and have to redo mine later. And so around these puff stitches, just make sure you have single crochets for at least one round. Just one round. That's all you really need. These ones are all really close together. So I'm not going to do any puff stitches. Until probably right there. I could probably sneak one in right there. Or even right there in the middle. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try that. And see how it turns out. Want to see how it turns out with me? Let's see how it turns out with me. 2, 3, 4, through all 5, and single crochet to secure. Puff that stitch out. Single crochet. I have the pattern written down on my laptop, and my laptop keeps wanting to shut down. Whoa. Puff that stitch out. It's feeling kind of flat. Yeah, that worked out really good. Okay, so we are coming up on the end of round 7, and I have been bantering while showing you guys some stuff. So that is basically what you're gonna do for, we just ended round 7, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, for 16 more rounds. So for 16 rounds, we're gonna make it oblong, and you be as creative as you want to be with your pickle, with as many bumps or as few bumps as you choose. And I will catch up with you at the end of round 23 and show you what to do after you have the bumpy part of your pickle done. Okay, so I have reached the end of round 23, and so now I'm going to show you how we're going to go ahead and close up in the pickle. This is what mine looks like. Yours could have fewer or more bumps depending upon what you chose to do. But at the end of round 23, and now we're moving on to round 24, which is going to be 3 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do a decrease. To do a decrease, I like doing the invisible decreases. So you're going to look at your stitch and you see how there's kind of a V on each stitch at the top. We're gonna take that very front loop of that V, and we're gonna yarn over and pull through, but don't yarn over and pull through the loops on your hook just yet. You're gonna go into the next stitch and take the front loop of that V and yarn under. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's going to be your decrease, making 2 stitches into 1. You're going to do that after every 3rd single crochet. 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to decrease, my yarn's trying to split on me. There we go. And just go ahead and repeat that until you reach the end of this round, and I will meet back up with you at the end of the round and show you what to do in the next round. Okay, so I just reached the end of round 24, and you should have ended with a decrease and 24 single crochets around. So now we're going to do round 25, which is in the next 2 stitches a single crochet, 1, 2, and then a decrease. One, 2, and then a decrease. And you just repeat that until you reach the end of the round. And you're gonna also end that round on a decrease and end with 16, or sorry, not 16, 18 stitches around. Okay, so I've reached the end of round 25, right? And I ended with a decrease and 18 stitches around. So now we're gonna pull out our loop a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take our fiber fill and we're gonna stuff our pickle. You're gonna wanna stuff them about as firmly as you can. Working it all the way around the sides. And as you see, it's really not gappy, despite it being worsted weight yarn with a number 5 hook. Okay, so that's gonna be good. And once you have it stuffed, we're gonna go ahead and finish round 26. It's gonna be our second to last round. And all we're gonna do in round 26 is 1 single crochet and then a decrease. Gotta remember my stitch marker this time. So 1 single crochet and a decrease. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to repeat that all the way around. you should be ending this round on another decrease and with 12 single crochets around. So go ahead and finish your repeat, and I will meet you back at the end of the round. Okay, so I just finished up at around 26. Yeah, around 26, and I have 12 single crochets around, and I ended around 26 on a decrease. So our final round, round 27, and we're going to go ahead and decrease all the way around. We're going to decrease 6 times, which will leave us with 6 single crochets, and I will show you how to close that up. 1. Sometimes it's hard to get in there. 2. Oops. And sometimes you'll lose it off your hook completely. 3. 4. 5. 6. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first stitch. Chain 1. We'll leave a tail for sewing. Cut our yarn. Pull through. Tighten that little knot that chain 1 makes. And then we're going to get our tapestry needle, and mine's hiding underneath my laptop. Give me a second. Whoopsie. Okay, so we have our last little 6 single crochets. And we're going to go ahead and in the front loops only of that little V. Let's see, where am I? That little V, we're going to go ahead and just through the front loops only. We're going to go away from us. We're going to go ahead and come back towards us in the next one. Away from us in the next one. Towards us in the next one. Away from us in the next one. And towards us in the last one. And then all we have to do is just pull. And it closes it. I like to go through both sides of our hole, or what was once our hole. And we got a small loop there. And bring the needle through. Just tie a little knot in it. And secures it a little bit. And then go back through the bump, because it does make a bump. And poke it through any side. And pull. And now the bump's gone. In there, we have our little pickle. Just need to weave the tail a little bit back and through the whole pickle a few times, just to make sure that that string's not going to pop through anywhere. And then you can cut off the excess. Just pull up a little bit, cut off. And there we have the pickle of our pickle deer.